Hi everyone, it's Lesley from Hungry Heavy Crafts and another card featuring some Lawn Fawn products today. You know I love Lawn Fawn, but I also wanted to mention that I really love vibrant colours and the way they pop against a stark white card. And that's really how this card originated, and when I had an idea to create almost like a little peekaboo window looking in at some sea life activity. So I've cut out 2 pieces of cardstock using my stitched rectangle die, and I'm going to cut out a strip, but instead of using my trimmer to have a straight vertical line, I'm using this wavy die, and that's from the Stitched Hillside Borders set from Lawn Fawn. So I'm lining it up gently, accurately, carefully, that's the word I'm looking for. And now I've got this wavy strip going down my front panel of my card. I want to have a tag on the front, and that's going to create a feature piece. And these are the Paper Smooches Gift Tags 2 die set, and it cuts this cute frame but also the inside piece as well. To ink up the background, first of all I'm lightly drawing some lines so I can make sure that I cover the section that will be peeking out. I want to make sure that there's no gaps in that. And I'm using my distress inks for this. I've got Salty Ocean, Mermaid Lagoon, and a little bit of Lucky Clover to bring some of that greeny tone to the background. I'm not worrying too much about blending because I'm going to be putting lots of sea critters on top, and so you won't see an awful lot of it. I just want to make sure that it has that ocean feel. I'm spritzing now with my distress sprayer with some plain water and picking up the excess liquid with a paper towel, and that gives those lovely distressed, almost like bubble look. For the tag I'm using this little clamshell dude. It's from the Year 6 set, and I've already stamped all of my images and coloured them in using Copic markers. I actually stamped these in Starbucks, I think, and coloured them in there, so sorry it's not in the video. But for my clam, I'm going to layer it up in a paper piecing style, just to give him more dimension. But I used quite thin 1mm thick foam squares for that. So let's see how the card's coming along. I've got my 2 pieces that will go on top, these white ones, and you can see the little wavy strip of the sea peeking through, and my tag will go on the top like this. And I had actually stamped Be a Little Shellfish onto a tag, but you'll see a little bit later on how I changed that up a little, because I decided I wanted a sandy mound for him to sit on. So I reached for my Simple Stitch Borders die set, also from Lawn Fawn, and in the background where the water is, I wanted to have a plethora of sea creatures. So I stamped a whole lot of images from the Mermaid for You stamp set and also the Critters of the Sea stamp set as well. And I'm going to be arranging them in the background so they're peeping out. So here I have that second tag that I've cut, and I'm going to use that Simple Stitched border die to cut it in 2, and then I'm going to ink up the top section in exactly the same colours that I used for my background. I'm just using a piece of card here to keep my fingertips out of it because I didn't want them to get very inky. Inevitably I'd put big blue fingerprints all over the rest of the card then. For the bottom section I'm using scattered straw because, like I said, I wanted it to look like a little sandy beach, a little sandy mound at the bottom of the ocean. So now I have my 2 pieces, and I'm going to stick them on top of this one that I had stamped on but I'm not actually using. So it'll just be used to help stick these 2 together. So I'm using some double-sided sticky tape for this, but I've left a little gap on the sandy one so that I can tuck some images in behind. I've used a glue pen here for the little thin border that goes all around the tag. And I'm actually going to stick this, once again using my glue pen, onto a scrap piece of cardstock and then cut around the outside with my scissors. This means I can just slip this inside piece right into the inside there and inlay it in there. Now let's tuck in this coral. And I've got my little clam. And I've also got some other little bits and pieces like shells and a starfish that I had cut and coloured previously. Just going to stick them on using a little bit of Ranger Multi-Matte Medium and adhere the clam with those thin 1mm thick foam squares. I've held down my project with some washi tape so that I can line up these little sea creatures perfectly, and I thought it'd be cute if the mermaid was patting the head of the turtle. Okay, so let's now assemble the card, but beforehand I wanted to add a little bit of glimmer. So I'm using the Wink of Stella glitter pen to add some shine to the mermaid's hair and some other bits and pieces of the card. So I'm going to stick this ink panel onto a card blank, and then I'm using some foam tape to raise up the top layer of the white card. Here's a little tip for you. If you take off both sides of the backing for your foam tape, you can actually bend the tape a lot easier and go around corners. It's a very useful tip. It is a bit tricky because everything's sticky and it gets all over your fingers, but you can get really close to the edges that way and go around corners. So all I have to do now is to adhere my tag, and let's not forget that that section in the middle there that goes against the blue background will actually need an extra layer of foam. To finish off, I've got my glaze pen here to just darken up those eyes. And I also added a few dots with a white gel pen as well. To finish it off, I did something that I very rarely do. I stamped a greeting on the inside of the card and used my Misty for that. And there we have it. The card's done. Thanks so much for watching the video today. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. And as always, come on over to Hungry Happy Crafts for more of my projects. Have a great day. Bye.